Okay, we are going to do an updated video of installation and setup of SDR console, and this is in direct relation to the website that I put up regarding ESSB audio. Link will be in the description, and this will be going on the 7300 page. This will apply to any rig. This is not specific to the 7300, but this is what I'm running is the 7300. Now, just as important as the TX side, I have found the RX side to be equally important. Stand by for a moment. So I'm going to show you how to get the RX side, as you will see in the videos at the bottom of that 7300 page, a comparison between what I would consider a high-end, full-blown SDR rig and console running a adequate dongle. So this is if you want to have a very good front end on your conventional superhead or the 7300. This is one way to get the front end a very close equivalent to a front end of a high-end SDR. The dynamic range is not going to be quite as great, but it does work, and it works very well, as you will see in the comparison videos. But you can make your own judgment call, of course, based upon what you see there. So the first thing you're going to need to do, let's say any rig that you're running, you will need an IF out to make this work. Now, 7300, you can pick up what's called the RX 7300 by INRAD. This modification takes longer to get the cover off than to put that in. And what that does is it provides an IF out to your SDR dongle. And when you hit the key, when you key the transmitter up, it automatically kills the front end of the dongle, which is very important. Okay. Otherwise, you don't want RF. Now, if you're running a rig that does not have the capability to use an IF out, you can always pick up like an Mfj Sdr Switch. Make sure it is the switch is the newer version switch. And I have a video which I will also link on that page, a very specific switch, and it's designed to use an SDR dongle, which will basically interrupt the receive on that SDR dongle so you don't damage it under transmit. Okay, that's a whole separate thing. That's some things you will need to consider if you go this route. Okay, very important. First thing we're going to do before we even get into console, you need to have Omni Rig. So go ahead and download and install Omni Rig. And if you're going to run a logger, then tied to the radio as well, in other words, multiple pieces of software, you're going to need to share that COM port that your rig is sitting on. Now, of course, this will only work if you have a COM port available on your rig, okay? And most likely you'll have some form of a USB cable, CAT cable, such and such, to provide CAT control of your rig. You will need that to make this work. So if you have that ability, most people will already have it. They'll already have a logger running connected to your rig, connected to their rig, then score. So I'm just going to do a quick tutorial. Go ahead and download and install Omni Rig. All right, get that in there. And what you want to, if you only have one rig, you're going to want to configure Omni Rig to look at a COM port, right? So make sure that's installed. We're not going to configure it yet because we need to do one other thing. However, if you are not running a logger, then you can just run Omni Rig standalone. So in the Omni Rig 2 settings, I have multiple rigs here that use Omni Rig. So I have the IC 7300 placed in Rig 2. If you only have one rig, you can go ahead and place it in Rig 1. Now, let me get to, I will get to the place. What you want to do is you want to go to, open up your File Explorer, right click on on your PC. Go to Properties. It's going to open a separate window. Okay. And go over here to Device Manager. Go to Device Manager. Make sure the rig is on, the power supply is on, the rig is turned on, and open up your COM port section. And you want to see where your rig is sitting on. Mine is sitting on COM3, so write that down, make a note of it. Okay, that's a Silicon Labs driver. That is the ICOM 7300 driver. Yours, whatever rig it's going to be different. You have is going to be different. So make sure you pay attention to that COM port. Mine's on COM3. So I can close this. So if you're not going to connect a logger to your rig as well as SDR console, you can just run Omni Rig. So in that case, you would select your rig and the rig type, port, set your COM port accordingly. That would be COM3 for my situation. Make sure your baud rate is set correct in what you have in the radio. All the other parameters, these are the parameters I use on the 7300, and it just works. Okay, but ignore the COM port because I'm running multiple pieces of software connected to the radio. All right, click OK, you're done. Omni Rig is set up. However, if you're going to connect a logger or other pieces of software to the rig and SDR console, you will need some form of serial port splitter. I run VSPE, Virtual Serial Port Emulator. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to download and install that. Click on Device, Create. What you're going to want is a splitter. Okay, click Next. You want your data source serial port, okay, to be COM3, which is the port in the LPT in your device manager. That's going to be your source port. So you want to set that to whatever that port is. Remember, we looked at that in the device manager. Set that there, and then you need to create a virtual serial port. So you can choose from a selection of ports that aren't used. Make sure they're not used in device manager. Click Finish. I have RTS DTR on, redirect modem registers, boom. That's all you need to do. I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. So right here, this is for the SDRs. This is a pair. This is the ICOM. So I have the data port, the native port, which the ICOM 7300 is sitting on, and I have COM2 as a virtual port. Once that's done, go back to Omni Rig. Set your COM port in Omni Rig to use the virtual port. Okay, that'll be COM2 or whatever you set up right here in VSPE or your serial port. You can also use COM0 That's another one. I don't use that, but there's other ones on the market. That one's free, I believe, so you can use that. But the principle is exactly the same. So keep in mind all of the software. Starting at Omni Rig, and all of your software is going to be set up to use that virtual port, which is going to communicate to the primary port that the radio is sitting on, which is whatever, in my case, COM3. Once that's done, hit OK, boom, bada boom, bada bing, that's done. Moving on. Oops, I don't want to quit. Let me minimize this. Okay, now go get SDR console. Go online, type in SDR console, go to the website. Download, go ahead and grab the latest version, not the beta version, but the latest stable version. Download that, install it. Okay, when you light it up, there's some things that we're going to have to do. Mine's already configured, but I'm going to walk you through how to make it work. Make sure your VSPE is running. Make sure your rig is on, your IF out, and the dongle is all connected. First thing you're going to have to do, let me stop this. And let me open up this ribbon. Okay. So what you're going to want to do first is go to Home, select Radio, and you're going to see, let's see, let's go to Definitions. Click on Definitions. And when you do a search in here, it's going to show you all of the different SDR radios that console comes with, like the XTIO DLLs are already preloaded in console. Now, if you don't see your dongle in here, you're going to have to add an EXTIO for your specific dongle, and you should be able to get that online. So you can go online, download the extio.dll. All right. And when you download it, you're going to want to grab that and stick it. Make sure if it's zipped, make sure you unzip it. You're going to want to go to, let's see, program files, sdrradio.com. If you're on a 64-bit machine, you will go here under program files. If you're on a 32-bit, you will go to the x86 program files. I'm on 64-bit here, operating system. So go here and literally copy the EXTIO DLL and paste it into this directory. Close it. Done. And you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to most likely close console and reopen it again. So it may see it there. I don't know. If it doesn't see it there when you search under definitions, then you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to close it and restart it. And then it should appear in there, right? So if you're running like a hack RF or something like that, you should be able to just load the hack RF in, click on this, and it's going to populate and hit save. It's going to show up in here. Make sure you put a check mark on it. And in this case, I'm running an HF Plus. So I would make sure there's a check mark there. Hit save. All right. And make sure that I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. And it should be in this radio selection window now. So make sure this is highlighted, click on it, and hit start. Now that radio should light up. And there we go. Okay. So once your radio is running, now we move on to getting the other things going. There's a couple things here that I wanted to point out in this home tab. Your visual gain acts similar to a preamp. So natively, this particular dongle will run, like if you click on this, it natively wants to run at plus 10 dB, right? So you can ramp this up. If you click on 30 dB, you can get a better copy on weak signals. So that's kind of an interesting feature. Of course, your AGC controls, you're going to have to play with it. I don't know. The attenuator, it does have a preamp. If you click on this, you can turn it on or off. I find the visual gain acts kind of like a preamp, and you will have to go in and adjust your threshold. This is your AGC threshold, okay? And but before we get into this, I need to show you, now we need to connect the radio, right? So if you click the View tab right here, the radio is not going to show up in your receive in this panel. It's not going to be there. All right, so you need to go to Select, and you need to make sure you put a checkbox. Make sure this check is in the checkbox for external radio. Go ahead and do that. Click OK. And I'm not going to restart it because I've already done it. So it will ask to restart the program. When it pops open, you'll see external radio right here. Go ahead and click the little tiny drop-down arrow. Now, it probably won't be connected. So what you need to do now, hit the question mark right here. And this will open your Omni Rig panel. So this natively will see what's in your Omni Rig. So it'll most likely see either in Omni Rig 1 or 2, one of the two channels, the rig that you selected in Omni Rig. Go ahead and click on that. I have start when console starts and restore track state on start. I have those two checked. Everything else, I don't mess with it. This right here, tracking, make sure all of these are checked. Okay. And go ahead and click OK course, make sure your rig is running. And of course, your power supply is on, your rig is running. Click OK. And if this doesn't light up, let's say it looks like that, go ahead and click this play button, start the external radio display, power on and off. Start that, and you should see the VFO match, and you should see your rig name, and it should say online. It should match what you see on the display of your transceiver. Let's say you click in the pan adapter, and it doesn't change the rig, the frequency on the rig, hit the track button, and it should connect and it should sync up, and you'll be good to go. A couple other things. Let me go back into the question mark. This is a very important tab. So once that's done, click the question mark again, go to transmit, and how I have I don't want audio to come through console when I go into transmit. So click on mute audio. It's going to be very nerve-wracking if you do this because there's going to be a little latency there because of the software. So make sure mute audio is checked, and I have reduced IQ data by minus 20 dB. You can go as far down as minus 80 dB, and literally nothing will appear on the pan adapter. But I like to see a little bit. And the reason for that is so I can show you. So if I put it in a dummy load and I roll the power back to 0, once that's done, go ahead and click OK, and I reel it back to 0. Actually, I'll put it at let's say 10% drive. I like to see what this will allow you to do. It is allow you to see your waveform of your transmitted audio here in the IF display. Now, this will be there, but it may be closed. All of these functions on this left-hand panel, you can open and close using that little left arrow. So I use this, and let me key it up. So I can use this to look at my waveform on the pan adapter and also on the IF display. So this is kind of a nice, helpful way to see what your audio spectrum looks like. It is a handy tool, so I use that. Now, if you run at 0% drive, this is going to be very suppressed. So that's where that function in the transmit tab in this question mark right here, that's where that comes into play. This will help you. Let me go over here. Transmit. That's where this is kind of handy. If you suppress it too much, you won't see it on 0% drive. Like if you're on 0% drive, you're going to have to run this probably at like 0 dB or -5, -10, so that it actually shows something on there. Don't ask, don't understand it. Okay, a couple things as far as making this work. The display, you got your waterfall, you got your spectrum. Let me go back over here. So this is how you can set your low and your high as far as the colors on the spectrum, depending on what color on the spectrum. What do you call it? I'll show you in a moment. But this right here, the slider on the right, you can drag this. And what I usually do is I drag this until just the white hiss disappears. And this will allow you to see, you can see like weak signals starting to appear on the pan adapter. This will control the intensity of the spectrum. So I usually set this accordingly. Like, let's say if a signal is, well, wait for this guy to come back here. Okay, so he's about an S9, right? So if you set this too tight, it's going to be grossly exaggerated on a signal that's like 20 to 40 over. So you're going to have to play with that and kind of mess around and see if you can get that dot snapped in. That's going to be your antenna. Depending on your antenna, you receive at that particular location at that given time. Okay. Now under this view tab, you've got all sorts of things you can play with. Let me go. What I do is I have shaded checked, and you'll see it produces a gradient spectrum. on the Pane adapter. You see, notice on the signals how they go from black on the noise floor to kind of blue to purple as the signals get stronger, and they will continue to change color as they get stronger and stronger. Like if you look at this signal right here, and this one right here, let me move off of them so you can see it a little bit better. Kind of a handy feature. Some of these work better, and I'll show you how to change that. So under color right here, you've got your different windowing options. All right. If you hit color, you can choose from all different color types here. So these John Hermans, I don't believe appear in this list by default. So if you go to palette options, you can go to add, and you can add additional palette options. But by default, I don't believe this John Herman is checked. So if you check this, and these are nice palette options, so it's worth doing this. Click this box and click OK. And now under this, under color, you've got all these options here which will appear. And this one's one of my favorite. This is a red blue. All right, this is one of my favorite ones. I tend to use this a lot, but I needed to change it up, so I went to something different. So that's how you change that. Of course, you're going to have to change your everything else here. So let's go back to, what was I on? No, it wasn't Spectra. I can't remember what I was on. No, it wasn't Mother Nature. Spectra View, radar. No, it wasn't radar. Good heavens. Magma. That's it. I was on Magma. Kind of like that one. Kind of resembles the Sun, the Expert that I'm running. So I've gotten used to this, and it's a little snappy, but it's not really harsh on my eyeballs. Now you've got your spectrum here. So now what you need to do is you need to go up to low. Right here, this is hidden by default. So once you put your mouse into this pane and you click this, the minute you move this should pop up, right? You see it disappear? These boxes. So go to these boxes. You've got a zoom function, which will zoom the Pane adapter in and out, and you've got a low. So this one, you can control your baseline. All right, and this one will control your peaks. So the higher you go, the lower the peaks. So if you're running, let's say you've got stations at 40. I set mine so a station at 40 to 50 over is way the heck up here. So I got full spectrum. You don't have to do that, but that's how I do it. All right. Now let's move over to the receive pane. I usually keep this window closed because I don't care. I don't need to look at it. And there's probably going to be things I'm missing in here. This is a very elaborate program, so feel free to dig around. All right, under your mode window, it may be closed by default. Go ahead and open it, and this is where you select your modes. Okay, in your filter window, this is important. So here's the problem with the new console. Now, you can go in, and I believe you may be able to find old versions of console. Now, you can go in, if you click these three buttons here, you'll notice I have a lot of RX profiles in here. If you click this button, you can edit and create profiles. The problem is, if you hit add, let's say you want to listen, you're working some ESSB audio. So I want literally 20 hertz now maybe he fixed this. I don't know. I'm going to try this right now. 20 hertz. So let's say, do I have a 3? I do not have a 3.3. So let's do a 3, 33. Sorry about that, guys. 3300. So I want to listen audio spectrum wise from 20 hertz to 3300 hertz. So this would be a 3.3 kilohertz profile. So let me name it 3.3 click in here and back up. It doesn't auto erase when you click in it. 3.3 kilohertz. So I have it set to 20 to 3300 hertz. I usually don't touch any of this, and click OK. Right, so now if you click OK here, okay, see how that popped into your filter window? 3.3 kilohertz. So if I click on this, this will set the RX. This will stand by, everybody. Excuse me. Oh. Work. All right. So if I click on the 3.3 kilohertz, you'll see the filter snap to 3.3 wide. So I'm listening technically at 20 to 3.3 wide. So just to verify this, I'm going to re-click on these three buttons. And yes, it took. So that is how you set your filter. You can create custom filter widths. And, oh, no, I'm not looking at 3.3. Where did 3.3 go? It's down here. 3.3. So I'm listening 20 wide to 3300. And there you go. So I can click on this, and I can click delete because I don't need it, and that's gone. Click OK, and there you go. That's how you set your RX width, which is relevant because you may be working, trying to do some enhanced sideband, or listening to guys on ESSB at 4 kilohertz wide, and you want to be able to hear full spectrum. You need to be able to hear below 100 hertz, and that's important. So create some custom profiles for yourself. Get yourself a good monitoring system, blah, blah, blah. Good set of cans. So now we're going to get down here, and this is your AGC control. You got 3 settings, and all of them are adjustable. This is the most powerful tool on any SDR. This is why you will hear me say that a 7300, 7610 is not what I would call a true SDR. Yes, they are software-defined radios, but they do not offer any of the control that you get with a true full-blown SDR. They're nothing, in my opinion, and you know what they say about opinions, but they're nothing but a glorified superhead. Once you move into this realm, the control you have is exponentially greater than what you have on a conventional rig, be it SDR or superhead. Doesn't matter. If it doesn't have this capability, in my opinion, it's worthless. There you go. That opinion probably stinks like a toilet bowl, but this is what this is the whole point of this. If you want to move into a true SDR realm, this is the direction you need to move in. All right. Of course, you got your auto notch, you got your squelch, you got noise blankers, noise reduction. This is the noise reduction tab, which is open. I can tell you NR2 is phenomenal. NR3 in the latest console. Be careful with NR3. Make sure you close the AGC down here a little bit, or turn your speakers down at least, because it will grab a weak signal. If you hover on this, you'll see it pop up. Based on the RN Noise project, uses deep learning applied to noise suppression speech only. So this works on the speech side of things. It will take that spoken word on a weak signal and make it sound, it'll go from like an S5 to a 20 to 40 over. It'll blow the cones out of the speakers, so just beware about that. Now you can set, if you click this, it will allow you, let me mute the audio here. Get off that frequency. You can set the level of this. You're going to have to find a sweet spot for this. A little bit goes a long way. So if you're working weak signals, that is a very powerful tool. So last thing on the agenda is the audio, and I wanted to spend some time on this. I don't know why this is happening, if this happens just with me or it happens with someone else. So as you guys know, as you've seen on the website, I use a dedicated station sound card. Now, I would like to use the audio card on console. The problem is I can't, because if you go right here, this is where you select your audio, your playback options for console. So if you click on this, this will list all the sound cards that you have on your system. All right, right now I have it set to default, which is Realtek audio speakers. I have the Realtek audio speakers on playback in the sound card. So if we go to the bottom right-hand corner of your display and you right-click on the little speaker icon, click Sounds. Okay, this window will pop up. Go to playback. I find this combination tends to work really well. This, I set my Realtek speakers to default. Okay, so don't ask. I have no idea what's going on, but it does not like to use the audio card, which is a decent card. You know, it would be nice to use it. What I do is I set this either to default or I set it to the Realtek speakers. I wish I could use the card, but what'll end up happening is if you look down here in the bottom right-hand corner, see audio, it's running at about 28 to 30 something, 31 milliseconds. So if I key the radio, you'll see it drop to 0, but the audio is being processed and spit out via the Realtek card. Now I can set this to speakers Realtek audio, which is the same thing, right? But I'm just throwing this out there. I've had a very difficult time. It becomes very unstable if I run on any card aside from the Realtek card. I've fussed around with settings. I cannot make it. Works fine for, I would say, 15, 20 minutes, and all of a sudden I'll look and it'll be like this meter right here at the bottom right-hand corner will be at like 180 milliseconds, 200 something milliseconds. Audio will start going all choppy, all hell will break loose. Don't know why. Can't figure it out. But hey, if this works, I'll run with it. And this seems to be fairly stable. It runs from anywhere from 24 milliseconds to like 36 milliseconds, generally somewhere in there, which is adequate. That's good. That's good. That's all you need. So that covers the audio. Of course, you got your volume slider right here. You got your mute function. Now this software is capable. Here's a couple additional things I'm going to show you. So if you go up here to this little wheel, up here top right hand corner, this is your program options. This is where you'll find it all the time, regardless of whether the top ribbon is closed or open. Really quick, if you want to close the ribbon down, which I never use it except to go in, maybe if I'm working a weak signal, I will go to the home tab and come over here to visual gain, and I may bump that. But aside from that, you can hit these little arrows right here, and it will close the top ribbon. Top right-hand corner, hit the jog wheel there, the little wheel. This is where you set your audio. So I have my audio set to default. Once you set your sound card here, what sound card you're going to use, you can go into this tab, check default, 2x, 4x buffer size, buffer fill, maximum recommended. I don't run that, and it seems to be very stable. You may have to play with these a little bit, find the best setting for your particular hardware in your computer so that it becomes stable. You want stability over speed. The difference in speed isn't going to be significant, but you want it stable. So that's that. You will find your equalizer in here. You can run your set up an RX equalizer. Of course, your enable and high pass filter. You can run it as an equalizer or a low shelf, high shelf. That's where you'll find that. Pseudo stereo, I do not run that. It's kind of cool, but now controllers. Under controllers, here's something interesting. You do have MIDI capability on this. So if you have a MIDI controller, you can set your MIDI controller up to use with console to activate certain functions and control certain functions. Unfortunately, key functions that I would like to see, I don't think are available. Like the AGC function, there is no AGC control in here, and that's the most powerful, most important function on an SDR front end, period, hands down. Not present there. I don't know if you can add it. No idea. So kind of cool though. Let's run down through. So tuning, auto mute, I don't fuss with that. So you can go to start, and this is something I changed. Auto start previous radio sample rate, starts up everything the same. In priority, I have boost priority to above normal. I have that checked. And I believe that's it. So I believe I covered everything. So once that's done, you can go ahead and light it up, and you should be off and running. You're going to have to do some fussing with it and some playing with it to get it set up to your liking, but well worth the time invested. I can guarantee that you'll really like it. Don't ask me for dongle recommendations. All I can say is if you want something decent, do not go with an RTL SDR. The front ends are horrible on those. I do have a friend with a Hack RF. It's not cheap, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than a $2,500 SDR. Way cheaper. We're talking fraction of that. So there are some very good dongles out there that you can use. That's it, folks. 7.3. Have fun. And I hope I presented this in a fairly comprehensive way, which takes some of the mystery out of it. 7.3, y'all. Catch you later.